Pride, described as the original sin, is one of the most destructive forms of emotion one can feel. Typically masked as confidence, pride is rooted in insecurity, as it refuses to let humility step in. And when it corrupts the depths of your soul, it makes you feel above the Creator. Early biblical texts point to Lucifer as the first entity to exude this sin by convincing other angels that he can overtake God. King Solomon warns of the dangers of pride several times in the book of Proverbs by stating that everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord. This is where the downfall happens. If you are smart, you will realize you are mortal and lean back towards meekness and humility. But if not, this can lead to total and utter destruction. The come up during the height of pride is glorious. You feel invincible, elated, and eternally loved. It wraps you up in a cocoon of glory as the outer shell protects you from any reproach, but the infection begins to spread from the inside. Pride makes you less susceptible to criticism and can sometimes be born from the idolization bestowed upon you. When people lift you up and treat you as if you are a god, you begin to feel like a higher being rather than a mortal man. Public destruction is a fate no one wants to face. But when we as humans believe we are above God and His reproach, He quickly shows how little control we have over our own lives. Julius Caesar was a prime example of how pride can turn deadly. A man who once was seen as a great leader turned into a tyrannical nightmare. He began to act without counsel, humiliated senators, and removed safeguards for the common people. After a while, a group of conspirators rose against him, and Caesar was famously assassinated by his own friend. This is when the proverbial rug is pulled from under you. The downfall is public, humiliating, and you are now more remembered for the fall rather than the climb you made to glory. The mirror we face after falling from grace is a stark one. We must confront our own demons, seek truth, and look at the true horrors within ourselves. Pride acts as a band-aid for a gaping wound. It may cover a portion of the injury, but not enough to prevent the infection from coming in. Aristotle, in his Nicomachean Ethics, distinguished between healthy self-esteem and the vice of arrogance. The proud man claims more honor than he deserves and refuses to acknowledge dependence on others or on virtue itself. True greatness, for Aristotle, includes megalopsychia, the greatness of soul, but only when paired with humility before truth and justice. The biblical record is unrelenting on this theme. The Tower of Babel stands as humanity's collective act of pride. God scattered them with a word. No dramatic battle, just confusion of language and the quiet collapse of unified rebellion. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon walked the roof of his palace and declared, "Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty?" Immediately, he was driven mad, eating grass like an ox, until he learned to praise the Most High God. Only then was his sanity and kingdom restored. In more recent centuries, the pattern repeats with striking consistency. Napoleon crowned himself emperor in Notre Dame Cathedral because no mortal hand was worthy to place the crown on his head. His invasion of Russia became the archetype of overreach. Nearly 500,000 men lost to winter, disease, and the refusal to accept logistical reality. He died in lonely exile on St. Helena. Philosophers have long diagnosed pride as the quiet corruption of the soul. Friedrich Nietzsche, though often misunderstood, saw the danger of unchecked will to power. When the drive for greatness detaches from truth or morality, it becomes the Übermensch fantasy, gone toxic, with individuals or nations believing they stand beyond good and evil. History's tyrants, from ancient despots to 20th century dictators, embodied this. They rose on charisma and ruthlessness, only to leave mountains of corpses and ruined nations when reality finally asserted itself. Socrates, by contrast, built his entire philosophy on the rejection of pride. The oracle at Delphi declared him the wisest man in Athens. His response? "I know that I know nothing." He spent his life exposing the false certainty of politicians, poets, and craftsmen who thought they possessed knowledge they lacked. His humility before truth earned him execution, but also immortality as the father of Western philosophy. C.S. Lewis captured it sharply in Mere Christianity. Pride leads to every other vice. It is the complete anti-God state of mind. As long as you are proud, you cannot know God. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. Pride is seductive because the ascent feels glorious. The fall feels inevitable only in hindsight. Yet the mirror, after the fall, offers something priceless: clarity. Stripped of illusion, we see the insecurity pride was papering over, the relationships it poisoned, the warnings it ignored. If you are lucky and you are not killed by your own pride, it seems like the fall is necessary for wisdom because it forces you to reflect on yourself. The fall keeps you grounded, makes you realize you're human, and brings you back to your Maker. It explains exactly why in Hebrews they say, "For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child." Those whom he chastises typically do not have such a large fall from grace as some of the names we mentioned, because they return to God before it's too late. But when pride takes total root, sometimes God must pull everything to send you back to him. And if that means total and public humiliation and destruction, so be it. The infection pride conceals surfaces eventually, whether as public disgrace, broken families, lost empires, or a soul estranged from its creator. But the story does not have to end in ruin. Humility is the antidote. It is not self-hatred. It is accurate self-assessment in the light of truth and dependence on God. Scripture promises repeatedly, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. The same hand that casts down the arrogant is open to lift up the repentant. The kingdom Solomon lost through pride was later echoed in the greater kingdom offered through Christ's humility, the King who washed feet and died on a cross. Pride whispers that you are the main character, self-sufficient, untouchable. Humility tells the quieter, truer story. You are mortal, gifted, dependent, and deeply loved. The choice sits before every person, every leader, every age. Towers can be built to the heavens, or knees can bend in reverence. One path ends in scattering and regret. The other leads to grace, restoration, and honor that does not fade. Subscribe for more philosophy videos like this, and check out our other videos below.